When making photomechanical stencils for screen printing, a positive is used to define the image area that is to be printed. When making a positive, it can be drawn, collaged, photographically or digitally generated. The source image can then be photocopied so that the black toner component of the photocopy will become your image area, while what is white will become the stencil that stops the ink from printing. When working in the screen printing studio, you need to wear appropriate clothing and enclosed shoes. When using both the self-contained exposure unit and the washout trough, you need to work in yellow safe-like conditions. Close all external doors to keep white light out of the darkroom. Turn on the exposure unit at the mains on the wall and at the mains isolator switch on the front interface of the unit. Turn on the tube switch located on the front interface of the exposure unit. Lift the steel frame with the rubber diaphragm to the up position. Check that the glass on the exposure unit is clean. If it isn't, use a glass cleaner and a rag. Position your positive or combination of positives, if you have more than one, onto the glass with your image side facing upwards towards the black rubber diaphragm. Remove the emulsion coated screen from the drying unit, making sure your emulsion is completely dry. Then place it on top of your positives so that the flat emulsion side is facing down. When placing the screen, make sure that the positives aren't too close to your metal frame during exposure. It's best to leave a space of at least 10 centimeters to allow room for your ink reservoir during printing. The purpose of the vacuum pump on the exposure unit is that it forces connection between the screen positive and the emulsion, the end result being a crisp, sharp image. To ensure that you get a vacuum seal between your screen and the positive, you need to position the string line attached to the glass into the center of your screen, as this allows air to be drawn away from within the screen frame when the exposure pump is turned on. Once the positives have been set and your screen is in position, turn off the tube switch located on the front interface of the exposure unit. This switch controls the fluorescent tubes that are used when positioning your screen and positives, but is not required during the exposure process. In addition, check that the low power, high power switch located on that front interface is set to high power. Then close the exposure unit by pulling down the black rubber diaphragm and then fasten the locking clamps. Turn the vacuum switch to the on position. Don't be alarmed if the vacuum makes a loud whirling noise, as this is normal. The correct exposure time depends upon the type of positive being exposed. You will find an exposure time guide next to the exposure unit. The recommended setting for a paper positive is between 170 and 200 light units. To expose the screen to the UV light source, press the green Start button, which is located on the front interface. The light integrator automatically counts down the exposure and will turn off the UV light when it gets to 0. When the exposure process is finished, switch off the vacuum, then undo the clamps and carefully lift the lid of the exposure unit. Remove the screen, taking care that you don't scratch the glass with the edge of your screen frame. Remove your positives and clean the glass with a rag and the glass cleaner. As the exposure unit is in constant use, please leave it turned on. However, if you're the last person to use it late in the day, it can be turned off at the mains isolator switch. Position your screen into the washout trough with the flat side facing towards you. Make sure you're wearing both ear and eye protection. Turn on the hose with the tap on the wall, then gently wet both sides of the screen. preferably with warm water. Position the screen so that the frame print side is now facing towards you. Once the screen is wet, the image will start to appear. It will start to become lighter than the surrounding emulsion. If you wish, you can gently rub with a designated sponge, rinsing with water as you go. Continue developing your screen by spraying the exposed side with water until all the soft emulsion has been washed away. It's a good idea to compare your screen with the positives to see if there are certain areas that need further development. The dissolved photo emulsion will run down the mesh, so you need to ensure that this has been washed away so that any dilute residue doesn't block your mesh. Once the image on your screen is clear and all the areas are open, your photo emulsion stencil is fully developed. After use, wash out the developing sponges. Turn the washout trough hose off, take the screen and place it into the screen drying area.